From the Soapbox is the official podcast for the American Animal Hospital Association's digital newsroom, Trends. Here, we take inspiration from the familiar soap notes, but instead of looking at the condition of a patient, we're diagnosing and discussing the state of the veterinary industry. We'll chat about the challenges, trends, and innovations shaping the veterinary world with voices from across the community. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Singler. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of From the Soapbox. My guest today is Dr. Annie Harvilicz, a veterinarian whose name may sound familiar. She's been featured in several different news outlets for her work housing pets displaced by the wildfires in Los Angeles. More about that in a moment. In addition, she's a practicing veterinarian and founder of the Animal Wellness Centers and Animal Wellness Foundation, both based in LA. I felt so inspired by this conversation. In addition to talking about the work she did, not just with the most recent wildfires, but over the years through her foundation, she also talks a lot about community building and how the community she has served over the years rallied to help when she needed them. Without further ado, getting her time to talk from the soapbox, Dr. Annie Harvilicz. Well, Dr. Annie Harvilicz, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
I will say that I learned about you from seeing your posts in the DVM Moms Facebook group and all the amazing work that you're doing. So I'm excited to learn more about that from you today. So you own 2 veterinary hospitals in Southern California. Is that correct?
Yes, I have 2 veterinary hospitals. Correct.
And a nonprofit foundation, the Animal Wellness Foundation.
Correct. Yes.
And you took in over 40 animals from community members that had to evacuate their homes during the LA fires.
We've taken in a lot more than that. That was kind of the original number. But yes, that's what we did.
Do you have a sense of what the actual number ended up being?
I don't, and I feel terrible because it's probably my most frequently asked question. But there were time periods where we were literally bringing in animals, and within hours they were going out to fosters. And we were connecting in situations like this. We were connecting the owned animals directly with the fosters, so we weren't even on the paper trail. Because we were just connecting them directly. And a lot of what I did during that initial month after the fire started was doing a lot of networking and connecting people together. People who had certain needs, connecting them with people who had certain resources.
Yeah, I can only imagine it must have been such a hectic, chaotic time, and just being in the middle of that. But clearly, you were needed there.
Yeah, I hope we made a difference.
I can only imagine the difference that you've made. How long have you been a practice owner?
15 years. Yeah, so I've been a veterinarian for 20 years, and we opened up animal wellness centers with the intention of having it be multiple locations, but for about 15 years it was just a single location. And very soon after opening Animal Wellness Centers, we started the nonprofit Animal Wellness Foundation.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the Animal Wellness Foundation, sort of how that came to be and what kind of work you do?
Sure, I kind of like telling the story of how it came about. So when I opened up our veterinary hospital, my brother, who is a lawyer, helped me out with a lot of it, as you can imagine. And very early on, my brother was in our vet hospital, and there was a dog that had a laceration on its side, and I sutured the laceration and sent home antibiotics, and I walked up to the front and I was like, "Here's your antibiotics." And the guy left. The owner left, and my brother's like, "Wait, what?" Like, he was like, "Wait a minute, what just happened?" And I was like, "Well, the man who owned that dog was obviously homeless. We knew he was homeless. There are a lot of homeless people in Marina del Rey, and they tend to, hang around the same areas. So we knew that he was, a, a I guess I shouldn't say homeless anymore, but an unhoused person. Um, and so my brother was like, "Wait a minute, like you didn't charge anything." And I said, "Well, obviously he doesn't have any money. Like, and what am I going to do? Not help the dog? It's not the dog's fault." And so we went back and forth for a while, and he said, "Well, if you're going to do that, you got to do it the right way." And so he went through the process of setting up the nonprofit, so that we can account for the money that I was, basically giving away, for the clients that I wasn't charging. So that's how the foundation started. Um, and one of my goals is to kind of revolutionize the veterinary industry in a way, because I think it would be wonderful if we could all do something like that.
Right.
Because I think it would be so good for our profession on so many levels, including, mental health for veterinarians. But that's a whole other topic. Um, but that's how the foundation started. And so we mostly helped low income families when they couldn't afford care, and that kind of bled over into helping rescue groups, rescue organizations. Because we have such a huge problem in Los Angeles with euthanasia rates, of dogs and cats especially. And so we were helping rescue groups, and then one day I had befriended someone who was running a rescue group, and she said, "Hey, do you want to go to this shelter with me?" And we were still a pretty new hospital. And every new hospital owner knows it takes a couple years before you really get busy. There's some days that it's a little slow, and we had empty cages. So I went to the shelter with a friend of mine who ran this rescue, and she was getting one dog in particular. And one of the volunteers said, "Hey, can you take this Chihuahua?" It was like kind of like this long-legged Chihuahua, um, that the volunteers have been moving around the shelter, basically trying to hide how long the dog had been there. Um, and so the volunteer's like, "Can you take this dog?" And I looked at this little dog, and it looked up at me, and and I thought, "Well, I have an empty isolation ward right now. I guess I'll take you, but you're gonna have to stay in isolation for a while because a lot of them, have kennel cough. You're gonna stay in isolation for a while, so you need a friend." So I took two of them.
Well,
Um,
of course. That's so sweet.
so the two of them, we stuck them in isolation, for, like, 5 days while they got treated for kennel cough, because they all, ended up having kennel cough. Um, and then once they were over that, it was basically it seemed really easy to find a home for them, because we had dog and cat, dog lovers coming in all the time, with clients and everything, and we'd be like, "Hey, we got some dogs that need homes if you know anybody." Um, and so it was seemingly easy to rehome them. And it was also very nice because I found that I was creating a community of people that weren't just coming to me for when their dogs were sick. They were also like looking on Facebook, and they'd come in and be like, "Hey, what happened with, so and so? I saw they needed a home." And so it creates a really nice community. Um, and so this whole thing with, helping with the fires and everything, it was basically like 15 years in the making. Um, yeah, because a lot of the people that came out to help, were the people that have been around with us, for years, and they're like, "I." People were showing up to volunteer to help walk dogs and help, answer emails, and they're like, "Well, I got my dog from you 10 years ago, and I'll never forget it." And,
Wow, that's
but
so amazing. So
yeah.
you've been like growing this community and sort of preparing them unknowingly for this moment.
Yeah. Well, there was a fire, gosh, a couple years ago. It wasn't the recent Malibu fires, but I think it was about 2 years ago there was a fire, and I did the same thing. I said, "Hey, if anybody needs help, let me know." Um, but at that time, not as many people got the message, and I had some people reach out to me, but it wasn't nearly the response that we got this time. Uh, but yeah, so this is something, we've basically been doing for a while now.
So the Animal Wellness Foundation, it's like a nonprofit that you run sort of out of your veterinary practices as opposed to being like a totally separate entity with like different goals. And that's
Yeah.
that's so unique, and it's so wonderful that you had your brother to kind of see that problem and be like, I know you're not going to stop doing this. So here's a way that maybe we can protect you a little bit while you do it and help it
Yeah.
be a little bit less of like a total financial
Yeah,
loss
yeah.
for you,
Exactly,
perhaps.
exactly. Like, that made it less of a financial burden. And it also helps because, then, we can take in donations more easily. And so we would even have situations where, I have a client come in and their dog needed X-rays and they couldn't afford the X-rays, and the client that was in the waiting room waiting to see me next was like, "I'll pay for his X-rays." It is quite amazing how, um, how that can come about. That kinda can be
Like the Starbucks drive-through pay it forward
Yeah.
idea, but on a much bigger level.
Is that a
And I
thing?
love
Like,
that.
that happened to me once where somebody paid for my Starbucks.
It's never happened to me, but I've heard of it. I've heard of it happening where
Oh.
someone's like, "I'll pay for the next person," and then they're like, "Oh, my thing's paid for. I'll pay for the next person."
Well, it's funny that you say that. We took in this one dog, the owner is elderly, and his his house burned down. It was actually his daughter's house that burned down, but, I guess he was living with her, and she had to put him in an assisted living because the house burned down, and he has this dog that's, like, 100 pounds. They say a mastiff, but it looks like a Great Dane, and it came to us, and within 2 days, I promise you there's a connection here. Within 2 days, um, the dog bloated, got a GDV, and it was in the middle of the night, and we had it in a foster home. The foster took it to the emergency hospital. I got a phone call, and of course, it was like 650. I forgot, $14,000, $16,000. I think it was $16,000 for the emergency surgery, um, to do the gastropexy and fix his dog. And I put it on my credit card. I was like, "Well, let here," I was like, "What?" Of course, we're do it. So I put on my credit card, and the next day I went to, uh I go to Pete's instead of Starbucks, but, we have Pete's out here. I went to Pete's to get my chai tea latte, and my credit card got declined because I had just done a
Because you just
$16,000.
put $16,000 on it.
And
Yeah.
and I literally had, like, I had gotten my drink and, my, like, little breakfast sandwich, and I only had grabbed my credit card, and it got declined, and the guy behind me was like, "I'll buy it for her." And I was like, "This guy is like my hero," 'cause I don't know how I would make it through the day. But it was completely 'cause, so my credit card got declined, and the guy behind me paid, and it was, like, so amazing and so wonderful. And that just goes to show you, like, how amazing, like, everybody has been during this entire process. And that guy didn't know, that I was helping dogs or whatever. He was just a nice guy. And so that's why I asked you. I was like, "Is that a thing?" Because that's, happened to me now. That's what he
Yeah, I don't know how often it happens, but I've certainly heard of it, and, and it's I mean, I think it's true in all those situations, like, you never know, like, what your offer means to someone, or how much they needed it when you do something like that,
Yeah.
so I wanna go back then to your Facebook posts. I'm assuming you made them, like, on multiple different pages. Like, I definitely saw them on the DVM Moms Facebook group. Um
Uh, so first of all, so I'll tell you the story of that Facebook post if you want to hear it,
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah, I want to hear it.
but I will say this first. I love the DVM Moms Facebook page.
Yeah.
I I love them. I love them so much. I probably wouldn't even be on Facebook anymore if it wasn't for the DVM Moms Facebook page. I think they're so great. Um, I don't think I actually posted on that. I think somebody shared it. Um,
Okay. Yeah,
but
you may have been right. You may be
yeah.
right.
So the story, the way it basically panned out was, um, my brother called me, like my brother literally texted me the morning that the fire started and was like, "Be careful, there's a bunch of, wind. The wind is supposed to be terrible. Be careful." And I was like, "I don't even know what he's talking about, but okay, whatever." And then around, like, 11 or 12, he texts me and he's like, They're gonna evacuate us, there's a fire. Um, what can I do with my animals?" And so I took his animals in and, by that time, when I got his animals settled, it was like 2 or 3, and, we could actually see the fire from our hospital. It's, like, off in the distance, in the mountains, and we were like, "Wow, this is, like, crazy, you can see the fires." But we didn't know how bad it was gonna be, like, he didn't even think he was one of the first people that got evacuated, and he didn't even think it was real, like, he thought it was precautionary, but we had no idea that his house was actually gonna burn down or that his entire neighborhood was gonna burn down. It just seemed unfathomable, when, um, like, it was almost like the equivalent of, like, a sinkhole, like, just abruptly, like, sucking everything in, like, a mile away from us. Like, who would ever expect that this would happen?
Right,
Because
right.
when the fire broke out, um it was in a very like, it was off in the mountains, like, in the forests, like, we didn't think it would ever make it. Um, so you know at first he didn't even think he was gonna evacuate. He's like, "I don't know if we need to go," and then he's like, "I don't know if I need to take the rabbit." I'm like, "Yes, just be safe, take everybody, kinda." So we didn't think it was that bad. So we kinda, like, got the animals situated and then went about our at least I did, like, went about our day like everybody else was around. So, I was, supposed to take my son to a basketball game. So, I, got his animals situated, and then I kinda left to pick up my son and take him to this basketball game. And I'm sitting at the basketball game getting text from my brother about he's like, I think our house is gone. Like, this is worse than we thought, I really think the house is gone." I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he actually sent me a screenshot of the alarm systems that were going off at his house. And it's like smoke in the kitchen, glass breaking in the living room, fire detected here. Like you could see the progression of how it like actually went into the house based on the alarm codes. So that's when it kind of became real. And I'm sitting here at this basketball game, like feeling really guilty because I thought, here my brother's house is burning down. The entire neighborhood's burning down. And I'm sitting here at this basketball game. Like I need to be doing something. So I literally was just sitting there and he took a photo from the back of his house right before they left.
Mhm.
And it's just like, the fire. And I took that photo and I put it on Facebook and I said, "Hey, I have this vet hospital. If anybody needs help, let me know." And so that's how it started. And I literally just stuck that post on my Facebook. I think I did on my Facebook and the foundation Facebook page. And that's it. And then I went and chased down my son to figure out where he was running off to or whatever. And by the time I had I'm sorry, I think I said baseball, but by the time I had left that basketball game, um, I was already getting emails from people. So I think it spread very rapidly.
AHACon 2025 is more than just continuing education. It's your chance to take your career to the next level. Earn race approved CE credits, engage with industry leading experts, and gain fresh perspectives to bring back to your practice. Hear from powerhouse speakers, plus enjoy unique experiences like live pet portraits, charm bracelets, professional headshots, resume reviews, and much more. September 11th through 13th in downtown Chicago on the Magnificent Mile. Don't miss this transformative event. Learn more at c.aha.org. That's the letter c.aha.org.
I'm sure there were so many people who just needed to see that for there to be a safe place for their pets to go, and maybe for them to feel like they could evacuate. I mean, you hear all
Yeah.
kinds of stories about, people who don't want to leave certain unsafe conditions, domestic violence, whatever is going on in their lives because they feel like they can't take their pets.
Yeah.
I
And
can only imagine that some people might have hesitated to leave their homes if they didn't know what they were going to do with their pets.
well, the unfortunate thing is that I know that that's the case. Um, that's what happened. I think I got emails. I got a lot of emails from people, and um, I know for a fact that some of the people that perish did so because they didn't leave their pets. They stayed for their pets. Um, that being said, I also know that there are some people that did get my messaging, either through Facebook or the news, um, or like the newspapers or whatever. Uh, and they did report back to me and said, "Yeah, I left because I felt more secure that I could take my pets." Um, so I do like to. I mean, look, here's the fact of the matter. The full honest truth is, when this happened, I thought we were going to be inundated, like inundated with animals. I thought there were going to be so many animals like coming in and people that are desperate and everything. And in a way, I feel like um I didn't have as direct of a outreach with direct touching of animals. Like I didn't actually like physically you know help directly as many animals as I thought we were going to. But that's because we didn't need to. Um because a lot of other places were helping out, and I think that we did a fairly good job getting the message out that all these shelters and hotels and the Airbnbs and all these places were pet friendly. So a lot of what we did do was just communicating with people and educating people and letting people know that um they'd be safe to take their pets with them. Like, I got a lot of emails of people who are like, "Can I come to you? Can I come to you if I ca can I come to you with my 2 golden retrievers? Can I come to you with my, cats?" And, I'd answer them right away, like, "Yes, just, take your animals and get out. We will help you. But first, go to the place where you're going to shelter. Um, go to the place that you're gonna go for yourself, because most likely you're gonna be able to have your pet there, you know? And I'm proud of California, because I think we're pretty progressive out here in terms of, like, animal care, uh, and I think we have a deep understanding of the human-animal bond, and I think so many places were accepting animals that we didn't get as inundated as I thought we would be with pets. We got
I think
inundated.
a lot of places that didn't normally accept animals were taking them
Oh,
during
oh,
the
100%.
fires. Yeah.
100%. I mean, and I spoke to some people who have dealt with disasters in the past. Uh, Mostly I was asking for a lot of advice from other organizations that have, dealt with this stuff in the past. And one of the interesting things was a comparison with Hurricane Katrina. And I think Hurricane Katrina sent a clear message with people in general about the importance of the human animal bond, because there was such a significant number of people that did not evacuate because they couldn't take their pets. They couldn't go to the shelters. They couldn't go to, the convention centers and stuff because they weren't allowing pets. Like, the shelters back then didn't allow, I'm talking about human sheltering, didn't allow people to bring their pets with them. And as a result, it was a lot more chaotic, it was a lot more troublesome. Um, and part of that is, how important pets are to people. Like, there's nothing more stressful than when you have to evacuate, when your house is burning down, when you don't know, where you're gonna sleep that night. And they need their pets with them to help them get through this. And Los Angeles, like, we figured that out. and it was kind of shown in this, and we could see it, like, one of the things that we did, because basically we shifted how we were helping people, as the weeks progressed during the fire. Um, like, I would say the first week or so, I was like, I mean, literally the first week, I did not sleep because I was answering emails like all night long. It was mostly like emails and phone calls. That's kind of more of the stuff that we were doing, versus like directly like taking pets from people. Um, so that was like the first week. So we kind of evolved as situations change, and one of the ways in which we evolved is we sent a crew of people to the Pasadena Convention Center, because the Pasadena Convention Center turned into a temporary housing for people who had lost their homes. And so it was basically like, cots and like people having like little areas in the convention center to sleep in. And fortunately they could have their animals with them. So they had like their dogs and their cats with them. And that's like a huge contrast to like, a disaster like Hurricane Katrina when they couldn't take their pets with them. Um, but so I sent a vet team in there, and they basically like vetted all the animals that people had there, and at some points it's basically like even just going and like doing nail trims for them, and kind of making sure they have the food they need, and all that stuff. But there's a huge lesson to be learned here, and I think what it is that, like, the human animal bond is so important, and I think that you can see that in the people who, like, had to sleep in cots in, like, the convention center and stuff, like, having their pets is, like, so important. Um, so,
And I think maybe, well, not maybe, definitely the reverse is also true in that most pet owners are very aware of how traumatic it would be for their pets to be away from them. If there's a way for them to be together, they want to try to stay together to reduce anxiety for their pet as well, I would assume.
well, as veterinarians, like, how many times have we had, like, the asthmatic cat? It's like a cat with asthma, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Ah, you really can't smoke around your cat." And then suddenly the people stop smoking, even though, they tried for like 20 years. And, their doctors are like, you have to stop smoking. It's terrible for your health. Everybody knows it's bad for your health. But as soon as the vet says, you know, your cat can't
The cat
breathe
will
because
suffer.
you're breathing, they're like, okay, I'll stop smoking. Um, I, I think it's a similar situation, like with the people who wanted to stay. It's like, yes, you want to stay because you don't want to stress your animal out and you don't want to have to leave your animal, but you're also putting your animal at risk. So, even if, um, and I tried to kind of tell people this in a couple interviews, for the later fires, because, um, in the first fires, I did get a couple emails from people who's like my friends, My friend stayed because her dog has separation anxiety and she didn't want to leave her dog. Can you help us see if we can find the dog? Because she didn't live.
Mm.
And so I tried to like tell people, hey, I know sometimes we don't think about ourselves, but think about the dog. Cause her dog didn't live either. We've they found the dog's remains, like the dog didn't live. So she didn't wanna she didn't wanna leave, but I think if she would have known that it would have how badly it would have affected her animals, she would have left.
Mhm. I mean, it's like you said with your brother earlier on, I'm sure he had no concept when he was leaving his home that he would never go back there again, that it would be destroyed after he left. And I can only imagine that must have been the sentiment with so many people. They think, oh, well, I'm evacuating because they told me to, but it's not really going to affect me. It's not really going to come to my house. But you just can't imagine something like that until it actually happens.
Yeah, and I think as we were they were doing evacuations, like, for days, right? I mean, because it's multiple fires in different locations that were breaking out at different times, and, um, I think the later evacuees were kinda getting more the message that, like, this could actually happen
This is
to
really
us.
happening.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did your family ever have to evacuate at any point
Uh,
from your house?
no, I live right by the airport. And, again, maybe it's a false sense of security, like, just like everybody else, but we always took this, like, feeling like, "Oh, they wouldn't let anything happen in the airport." It's like, they um, but no, I live close to the airport, and we were pretty far away from where like, we never got to a point where they, evacuated us. Now there was an issue with false evacuation warnings. Um, so we had this thing with our phone. Yeah. You know how you get like Amber Alerts on your phone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they were doing alerts when different areas would get evacuated. And
Mhm.
uh one day we were actually working and we were I was actually at the center with the evacuated dogs and cats, and I had a bunch of volunteers and we were all like, puttering away working, and our phones went off at the same time. And it was like, "You're gonna have to evacuate." And we were like, "Oh," a bunch of expletives, like, a
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah.
bunch of bad words came out, and we're like, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" And we're like, "We gotta ticket all these animals. This is like, how are we gonna get these animals?" And and then somebody was like, "It's fake. It's not real." And then we like went because we weren't we didn't have a TV there, we didn't know what was going on. So somebody like went on their phone and went on the computer and was like, I think this is fake and, blah, blah, blah. And then we found out that it wasn't real and we were like, okay, that's fine.
Like,
Um,
fake in the sense that someone made a mistake
yeah,
or fake okay.
yeah, it was a
So did
mistake.
you ever get a, like, "Just kidding, you don't need to evacuate" text alert
Yes,
after that?
there was a thing that came out after that was like, this was an error. I think it went out to the entire Los Angeles County. Uh, but luckily it was the middle of the day. It was like 3 o'clock. Now, our area got a um a wrong message at I think it was 3 a.m. So I had literally like just fallen asleep. It was like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. and my phone went off with the alert. And I like jumped out of bed and I'm like, and it said, we are evacuating your area. And I was like, we gotta get out of here. And it was like, that's when it really like became so real to me. So there was a good like 15 minutes that I thought we were gonna have to evacuate. Um, and it's funny, the first thing I thought of was like my son's fish. I was like, what do we do with the fish?
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do?
So I thought we were gonna have to evacuate. I was getting all stressed out. I woke my husband up and he said, it's not real, we're not evacuating. And I was like, how do you know? He's like, I just know it's not real. And then and then I went and I probably went on Facebook and to like the neighborhood, and everybody was like, "Yes, it went off, but it's not real."
That sounds so terrifying trying to figure that out when when you've been like startled from sleep and you're probably not thinking clearly and you're trying to figure out if your life is in danger or if it's a mistake. That's so
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah. It was pretty intense. The funny thing about it, I thought, was that I then got like on this kick about fish, and the next day, because I mean this is in the first week, and this is also like I'm literally like sleeping very little. And when you don't sleep for a while, you start to get a little bit kooky. But I was like, "We need to figure out what to do with the fish." How and I even made this little video that I never posted, where I was like, "This is how you evacuate with your fish." And I was like, "You take the plastic bag and you make sure it has air." And then I called PetSmart, and I was like, "If people need to evacuate with their fish, can they take them to your store? Because you guys have all those fish tanks."
What did they say?
They were like,
They
"Absolutely
were
not."
like, "No."
Yeah. And I had made this video. I'm like, "Take your fish to PetSmart and Petco. They have all the fish tanks. I'm sure they'll let you use them until you can figure something out, until you can set up your own aquarium." Like, um, and they were like, "No, we can't do that."
They were like, "Please do not post that video."
And then I went into the center and I'm like, "Should we set up an aquarium so that if somebody has to bring in their fish, we have a place for the fish?" And the volunteers and everything were like, because I had some volunteers who were going through emails, like they were getting the phone calls and doing emails and stuff. And they're like, "We have gotten 0 requests for fish rescues." I'm like, "Okay."
Like, we probably don't need to branch into that right now. So did you or like any other members of your team well, I guess first of all, like was it I know there were references, you said it was an empty animal hospital. Was it not one that you were currently working out of? The animal hospital where you ended up taking in pets?
So the vet hospital where we took in the pets at the fire had been where I had been running my veterinary business for 15 years. But we were moving across the street into a bigger facility.
Oh, gotcha.
So we had opened up the new uh facility December 30th, and we were still like moving out. Like we still had like office stuff in there, and storages and things. Because it takes a while to move. And I can't remember now. I think the fires broke out on January 7th or 6th or 7th. So it was a week. So it was a week when we were still like transitioning from one to another.
And did you or any members of your team end up like spending nights there with all of the craziness around taking in new animals and people I don't know if people were like trying to contact you in the middle of the night and that kind of thing. How did that work?
The first 3 nights, I think I was there all night.
Yeah.
And then my husband's kind of took over, and we would kind of yeah, trade off. Um so probably the first week my husband and I traded off being there. Um After the first week we stopped staying there at night. So we would like close down at like 10 or 11 or something, get everybody settled, and then come back in the morning.
Looking for the latest veterinary news? Stay ahead of the curve with stories from the American Animal Hospital Association's digital, award-winning newsroom, Trends. We're bringing you fresh stories every day, covering everything from the cutting-edge clinical insights to helpful practice management tips. And it's not just articles. Watch videos, check out interactive charts, and learn more about the people shaping our industry. As an AHA member, you also unlock exclusive members-only content designed to help you and your team thrive. Visit aha.org/trends today and sign up for Trendsetter, our newsletter where all of our stories are delivered to your inbox twice a week.
did many of the animals that were there, did a lot of them require like medical attention, or was it more just kind of like boarding and meeting their basic needs, or was it a combination of both, or what did you find that they needed? I mean, were there animals that were coming in who had been burned or who had experienced smoke inhalation or anything like that, or was everyone was getting out way before that could happen?
Yeah, for the most part, everybody was getting out before that could happen. In the first, like I kind of said before, like our role was kind of evolving as we would go. So in the first couple weeks, as we were taking in animals, they really just needed boarding.
So it sounds like some pets were maybe there for a couple of weeks, and
Oh, we still have some pets.
you still do? Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah.
Um, w did you find that you suddenly needed to you had like a need for supplies, pet food, blankets, um, medication? Did you have a sudden need, and was your community able to fill that need?
The community was amazing, in terms of giving us supplies. We actually we got so many supplies from places, like, all over the country, um, and to a point where I actually had to start delivering them, because we had to, figure out ways to distribute all the supplies that we got. We've delivered 40,000 pounds of dog and cat food to stores around the area. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, like, delivering it to where were you delivering it? So it wasn't just staying at your hospital. You were delivering it to other organizations, shelters?
Yes. Churches, shelters. I found that, a lot of the animal shelters got a lot of support, like, they were doing really well. Um, so I one day I, like, walked in because we were like, "What are we gonna do?" We were overwhelmed because we were overwhelmed with donations, basically, which is a good thing. I had our new vet hospital, like, we had an entire exam room that was filled all the way to the ceiling with supplies, um and, I opened up what I called a free pet store. So our in the old hospital, our treatment area, so, like, all the vets know, like, can picture, like, what a treatment area is.
Yeah.
So our treatment area turned into a pet store. So we had shelves all along the sides. We still do. And food and pee pads and leashes and collars and beds and crates and everything. And people who were affected by the fire would come in and we'd literally be like, take what you need. And so they would come in and shop. And then we got to a point where we had so many supplies. We were like, we need to, because like we had a pet food company deliver 30,000 pounds of pet food in like pallets. And um, another delivered like 10,000 pounds and we had all this stuff. So then we started, we actually got the local college is Loyola Marymount University. They're really close to us. And we had a fraternity come out and we filled the fraternity up with their cars full of stuff and had them go to different churches and different organizations deliver food. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's fantastic how amazing the community was with giving supplies. Our deficits were in like human resources, and we had a lot of volunteers too. Don't get me wrong; like we had so many wonderful volunteers is really great. But when you're dealing with animals that are scared or some of them aren't really used to anybody besides their owners, you need, like, specifically trained people to be able to handle them, like, we have volunteers come and it's like, uh, you know, you can't I they wouldn't be able to walk like a 100-pound dog that pulls. Um, so the thing we needed more than anything, and we got it for the most part, but, our biggest, limiting factor was, like, veterinarians and, like, veterinary technicians and, trainers or experienced dog walkers, like, um, the people who could help with, like, the more difficult difficult people. But we did, I got veterinarians that came and helped, and it was pretty great. But in terms of like our needs, I would say like human resources for people within the veterinary community was probably like our biggest need. And uh yeah, as we started taking in donations, we were able to meet that need better by actually hiring some people um to help out. And we're still doing it. And we've hired people who have more experience with being able to do it. Um but yeah, but like resource wise, we did it was amazing.
You got what you needed and more. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm glad that that was the case, that your efforts were so well known and publicized that there were individuals and companies and, everyone in between kind of wanting to help in whatever way they could.
It's amazing. It was truly inspirational.
And you said you still have some animals there now. So what's the situation like now?
We're actually thinking about making it a semi-permanent or permanent rescue facility, um, because there's a lot. I mean, it's going to take us a very long time to rebuild the areas of LA that have been affected. And it's going to take a very long time for people to get back on their feet. There are a lot of people that are coming to us now because they had temporary housing with their pets, but now the temporary housing is going away and they still haven't figured out what to do. Um, so the need is still there, almost more so. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it a more permanent situation because even before the LA fires, there was such a large number of animals in LA shelters that were being killed every day, and we have such a pet overpopulation problem here in LA, um,
Mhm.
that we needed it even before the fires.
Yeah. And you said that some pets that you were just kind of like facilitating as they were coming in for them to go to a foster situation. Do you have any sense of whether many of those pets are now back with their families or some of those may end up being like long-term foster needs as well? I know it may be hard to know.
Yeah, I haven't heard from most of them, so I don't know. I kind of just like hooked them up together and then haven't really circled back around.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I don't really know. I mean, there are some of the animals that we have now. Um, the owners are just coming around to like I think we may not be able to keep them. We have to like, rehome and that sort of thing.
Right, just because of their loss of the home. That's
Yeah, it's hard to find, like, a lot of people who owned a home and could have, large dogs because they owned a home are now renting and they're not letting them, keep their mastiffs and stuff.
with this particular experience with this round of fires. I mean, how has this experience changed the way that you think about like your role in the community, as a veterinarian, as a member of the community?
Um, how has it changed? Uh, I I think that it's just reinforced my previous kind of goals and desires, which is to kinda help the veterinary world in general. Like the veterinary industry is, um, I think we are in a state of crisis in a way, with the mental health of veterinarians being what it is, and the corporations kind of taking over a lot of a lot of the hospitals, and there aren't as much like private ownership. Um, it makes me want to work harder to figure out a way, um, to make the veterinary industry more of, a win-win-win situation for
Yeah.
everybody.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you do so much for the community, but yes, it's very true that within our own industry we need a lot of support and people like you who think outside of the box and are doing all these amazing things.
Well, thank you. I think I don't think of that I did anything too much differently than anybody else would have, considering, like, when you're in this situation and you have this empty vet hospital and you're like, I think I think most, I'm very proud to be a veterinarian and I love veterinarians, and I feel like most veterinarians would have done the same thing. I'm not doing anything different than most veterinarians in the same situation would do.
Well, I think you maybe don't give yourself enough credit because you're the one who did it. You're the one who did it and you're the one who sort of set this precedent of doing this kind of thing over the past 15 years of not only being a business owner and an upstanding member of the community and a veterinarian, but also looking out for all those around you who need help and setting that example and growing this community, like you said, of so many individuals who admire you and know you for the work that you do and are ready to spring into action.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My last question for you is, what advice would you have for other veterinary professionals who want to start their own outreach efforts or prepare for something like this that could happen in their community?
Well, I think it's nice to have kind of collected some a support network. I think, you know people love people like veterinarians for the most part, I think. I think in general, like, people know that, we're people who love animals, we want to help animals. And a lot of times you have this client base that, um it's an for lack of a better way to explain it, like an untapped resource. And I think it is good to, kind of capture, the email addresses of clients, or just the contact information of clients, because a lot of times, if or having a Facebook page, or something like that, um, because in a time of crisis or in a time of need, they can be there for you, and they will be there for you, and they respect you more for it, for asking them for help, I think. And I guess what I would advise would be, um, don't underestimate the power of doing well by doing good. Um, whatever you put out there in the community, will come back to you. Uh, and so, I could see, someone maybe being afraid of, like, the financial burden, or the burden of, taking in that dog off the street that needs, um, it can be a burden for us, but it can also be, very rewarding, and you will get help for it. So, um, I guess I'm probably not giving great advice, but it's kind of
No,
like,
I think that's amazing advice.
yeah, I guess, like, I would say, like, don't be afraid to take the leap.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. That's probably the biggest thing. And then
Yeah.
one last thing before we say goodbye, what's something that you're excited about in veterinary medicine, maybe for the future or something that's already happening?
Uh, what am I excited about in veterinary medicine? I guess, to be honest, I think what I'm excited about in veterinary medicine, just to say the first thing that came to my head is, these new medications that are out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Cytopoint has been so life changing. This idea that we can, like, give an allergy shot and, keep these animals from being in so much discomfort is like that. That's exciting. And some of the other new ways to treat arthritis, and um And also the fact that it's becoming so mainstream to do alternative, modalities, like, I do acupuncture, and, when I started out, 20 years ago, like, nobody was doing acupuncture, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's like foo-foo medicine, whatever," and it's like, now it's like everybody's doing
Yeah,
acupuncture.
now it's more recognized.
Yeah, so that's
I
that's
agree.
exciting as well, like,
Yeah.
so I think the most exciting thing for me in veterinary medicine is the new, ways that we have to treat patients.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me, for sharing so many stories. I truly loved all of your stories. Thank you for all that you're doing and for spending time with us.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I love talking about my experience, but especially to, the veterinary community.